Welcome to the fourth video of the CSS3 course. If you haven't watched those three, I recommend you to go through it. Coming to the transition in this lecture. Transition makes us to move from one property to another property in a given time interval. If we are using the animation timing function, it is related only those elements which have animation. If we are changing anything in the JavaScript, it will not do any transition. Therefore, we use this transition. And this transition includes the properties like a transition property, transition duration, transition timing function, and transition delay. Coming to the transition duration, we can change any of the properties in a given time interval using this transition duration. And if you give 5 seconds, after 5 seconds this transition property changes. When you are using the transition delay, it will delay with the sum of the timing which we give. Transition delay equal to 3 seconds. After 5 seconds, it will delay with the 3 seconds. It will all animation will take up 8 seconds. Next, we are going to deal with the transition timing function. As transition timing function has ease in, ease out, ease in out, and linear, as we discussed in the animation timing function. Both are similar, but we can use this transition for every property, but we can use that animation timing function specific to those elements which have animation name. And next we are coming with the transform. Using transform, we can create or we can shift any of the elements position. We can do 2D animation, we can make a 3D transform, and we can make a lot of things. When we are talking about the 2D shifting, it has a TranslateXY. When we are using 3D, we have rotate and many of things. Using the translate method, we can push any element along x-axis and y-axis in the terms of a pixel or percentage. Also, we can rotate it using the degree. When we are using the translate, we have two values. We have x value, we have y value. When we are using translate equal to 2 pixel and 3 pixel, it will move that element 2 pixel from x-axis and 3 pixel from y-axis. This is about a translate xy. When we are using translate x and giving some value as 30 pixel or 40 pixel, it will move that specific element to 30 pixel because we have mentioned the translate x. When we are using the translate y, it will move that element along the y-axis till the given pixel. And we have translate 3D. In the translate 3D, we mentioned three things: x, y, z, or n, m, o, and theta. Theta means some value. When we are using translate 3D and we are mentioning x, y, z, it will rotate to that mentioned axis using some degree. We will discuss them in VS Code. And next we have the rotate. Using the rotate, we can rotate any of the element. We have three types of rotation: rotate x, rotate y, rotate z. If you have mentioned transform, rotate x, rotate y, rotate z, it will rotate some of the elements with respect to that axis. If you are using x, it will rotate in the x format. If you are using y, it will rotate in y format. If you are using z, it will rotate in z format. We will discuss them in VS Code. Then we have scale. Using the scale, we can expand the text, we can compress the text in x and y axis. If we are using the scale xy, if we are using scale 2 pixel and the 3 pixel, we can compress the text into 2 pixel and we can expand the text in 3 pixel along the y axis. This is about the scale. And next we come up with the filters. Well, now I am going to discuss about the transitions. We have created many of the animations using the add keyframes keyword, but not always we create using the add keyframes because many of the things are not supported in it. We use JavaScript for that. Whenever you are using the JavaScript for the smooth animation, you can't use the animation timing function. For that, you have to use the transition timing function. Yes, you have to use the transition timing function, and you have to mention the transition duration. And here I have created a animation in the JavaScript. You will learn about it in the further coming classes which are related to JavaScript. I have created an animation, and as you can have a look at here, I have created it. and here it is moving from 0 to 90, and it is adding up the 5% every time, and when it reaches the 90%, it will come back to its original position, which is 0% of the width. As you can have a look at in your screen, this is how the animation is looking, but it is quite unusual because there is no transition, means there is no transition duration. Therefore, we can use, for that purpose we are using the transition duration. Here I have created it, and I can mention the transition duration. I can mention the transition duration. I can mention it has 1 second, and I can save it. I can just reload the site. As you can have a look at here, there is a transition duration which is quite smoother. As you can have a look at here, it is quite smoother compared to the normal. This is how we use the transition duration. In fact, we can also state the transition delay. We can also state the transition delay. We can also state the transition delay as around 0.5 second. I can save it, and I just reload the whole site. As you can have a look at here, the delay which makes the animation quite rough, as you can have a look at here. And at last we have the transition timing function, as we have the animation timing function in the add keyframes. It has also transition timing function. We can mention ease and ease in out and ease out. We can mention many of them. When I mention the ease, it will make the animation very smooth. As you can have a look at here, it is quite smoother because we have added the ease. In fact, we can also add ease out, which makes the end smoother, and means animation end smoother. As you can have a look at here, there is a smooth animation which is going on. And altogether, without using this all things, we can only use transition. We can only use the transition, and we can mention everything. In the transition only, we can mention the transition timing function, that it must be ease in out, and I'm using the ease. And you can also mention the transition duration. I'm mentioning it as a 2 second, and I just save it, ease 2 second, and it is going to work here. As you can have a look at here, it is working, ease 2 second. This is how it works, and this is all about the transition. Now we go with the transform. In the transform, we can change the position of every element, and we can also rotate it with our given values. Well, the first thing, the translate. In the transform, we are going to discuss about the translate. When we are discussing about the translate, we have many of the types: TranslateX, TranslateY, TranslateX and Y. First of all, we go with the TranslateX. First of all, we write the transform, and in the translate, we will mention first X. We will mention the translate of x-axis, in which we will mention some of the position of a 200 pixel. Means I want that element of a div has to move 200 pixel from x-axis. As you can have a look at here, it is actually moving. I just reload it. It is moved for 200 pixel from its original position. This is how we use the TranslateX. Instead, if I use the TranslateY, instead of a TranslateX, if I move I use TranslateY, it will move in the y-axis. As you can have a look at here, when I use it, it is moving along y-axis. And if I want to move both x and y-axis 200 pixel, instead of using x and y, we have to use only translate. And the first thing is x-axis, second thing is y-axis, in which I am moving 200 pixel, and this is x, this is y. I am moving from both axes. I am moving x and y, and as you can have a look at here, this is 200 pixel from y-axis, and this is 200 pixel from x-axis. This is how we use the translate method. Now I am going to discuss about the rotate method. S, we can rotate any of the object in the div or in the HTML using this rotate method, in which we can rotate the element along x-axis, y-axis, z-axis as well as in 3D format. Well, look at it. First of all, I use the transform. And I have to mention that rotate value, and first of all I use the x-axis and I give some of the value, just say 180 degree, and I save it, and I will save it. As you can have a look at here, the value is down rotate. Just take your palm and just rotate it. When you are rotating, you are rotating along the y-axis. When you are folding it, you are folding with respect to the y-axis. Because I used the rotate X, it is getting folded. Actually, you can have a look at here. I just remove this rotate X and I will save it. And as you can have a look at here, this is actually the hello world. And it is getting folded. It is getting folded with respect to the x-axis, means you are folding your palm, just like it is getting folded. As you can have a look at here, I just paste it here, Control Z. I just paste it here. As you can have a look at here, the hello world is getting folded with respect to the x-axis. It is getting folded. Hello world, it is getting folded. This is how we use the rotate X. When we use the rotate Y, it is get rotated. Means take your palm and just rotate it. What a rotation is happening, it is with respect to the y-axis, and this is also rotating with respect to the y-axis. The original hello world is getting rotated. Here we have the hello world. It is get rotated to here. This is how we use the rotate Y. At last we have the rotate Z. Rotate Z is as usual. Just as we rotate everything using our compass, it is get rotated like that only. When I use rotate Z, I just save it, and when I reload the thing which is here, means hello world which is here, it is get rotated to here. In fact, I use here, instead of 180, I use 150, and I will show you. As you can have a look at here, it is getting tilted because I used the rotate Z. This is how we use the rotate X, Y, Z. What if I want to rotate every angle, means every angle in X, Y, Z? For that we have the rotate 3D method. Instead Z, I use the 3D, and I have to mention the numbers for the axis. This is x-axis, this is y-axis, this is z-axis, and at last we have the degree. If you want to rotate any of the axis for more degrees, just I will save it and I will show you. As you can have a look at here, I have used 180 degree for every axis. For x-axis I use 180 degree, for y I use 180, for z I use 180, because of which it is getting tilted like that. If I use only 0 for y-axis and 0 for x-axis, and I will save it and I will show you, it is only getting tilted with respect to the z-axis. And if you are using more number, if you are using 3, and I just show you, it is getting loaded, and if I use 2 here, it is getting tilted. As you can have a look at here, it is getting tilted because it is getting rotated from both y-axis and z-axis. This is how we go with the rotate 3D, and this is all about the rotate. Well, now I am going to discuss about the scale method. For the scale method, you have to use the transform. Here you have to use the transform, and you have to mention the scale, and you have to use the 2 values for the scale. One is along the x-axis and one is along the y-axis. You can use separately using scale X and scale Y, but I am preferring to use the scale which has both the values. Here I use 1 and 1. Here 1 represent the normal text along the x-axis, and 1 represent the normal text along the y-axis. And as you can have a look at here, when I use this, the hello world is displayed 1 and 1. If I use 2 in the x-axis, this is get expanded. The text is getting expanded, as you can have a look at here. The text is getting expanded, as you can have a look at here. The text is getting expanded. Therefore, if I use the 3 here, this text is getting compressor. The text is getting compressor, as you can have a look at here. The actual box is getting compressor. This is how we use the scale method. Well, do subscribe our channel for regular updates. Thank you.